Today we are going to discuss 35th, 36th and 38th amendments to the Indian Constitution. And for each of these amendments, we are going to cover their historical context, their purpose, key changes made through these amendments, what was their impact, and future course. The first amendment we have is 35th Amendment Act of 1974. So let's first talk about what was the historical context of this amendment. So when India gained independence in 1947, Sikkim was a monarchy and it decided not to join Indian Union as a state or union territory. But it signed an agreement with India that you would provide me defense, you would manage my foreign affairs, and you would also manage my communication services. So these three things you would manage, and rest of the things we'll manage on our own. So in a way, Sikkim signed this agreement, and this agreement has granted Sikkim a protectorate status. Means now India will protect Sikkim. By the early 1970s, there was this growing demand among people that India should intervene and try to merge Sikkim with India. So, due to political instability and the autocratic behavior of monarchy, people were demanding that India should try to integrate Sikkim into India. And to address these demands, the Indian government brought in 35th Amendment Act for the purpose of providing Sikkim with a unique status of associate state. Means now Sikkim has partially become a state of India. So what were the key changes made through this amendment? It has introduced a new article, Article 2A, which introduced the concept of associate state. So here associate state means that the state has been partially integrated into Indian Union. Not fully, but partially. How? With this amendment, non-voting representation to the people of Sikkim has also been granted. Now, Sikkim is allowed to send non-voting representative to the Lok Sabha. Non-voting means they cannot vote in the Lok Sabha, but they can be represented in Lok Sabha. And also this amendment has limited its autonomy, the autonomy of Sikkim. Now Sikkim has its own legislature and laws, while India controlled defense, foreign affairs and communication. What was the impact of this amendment? So this amendment has created an interim arrangement, but people were dissatisfied with this arrangement and they demanded more political rights for themselves. So this marked the beginning of Sikkim's journey toward full integration with India. What was the future course? So in 1975, a referendum was conducted in Sikkim and people voted that we want Sikkim to be integrated with Indian Union. And to materialize their referendum, 36th Amendment to the Indian Constitution was passed. Now let's talk about the 36th Amendment Act of 1975. So this amendment was brought in for full integration of Sikkim with Indian Union. There was this referendum conducted in Sikkim in 1975 where over 97% of Sikkimese people voted in favor of merging with India and abolition of monarchy. So it was the will of the people of Sikkim to merge Sikkim with India. So the government of India brought in 36th Amendment Act of 1975 to formally integrate Sikkim as an Indian state. So the purpose of this amendment was to grant full statehood to Sikkim and ensure its equal status with other Indian states. So what were the key changes made through this amendment? This amendment repealed the Article 2A, which granted associate status to Sikkim. New Article 371F was introduced through this amendment, which provided Sikkim with special provisions to protect its local laws, culture and traditions. This amendment allowed Sikkim to be fully represented in both the houses of the parliament, that is Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. And this amendment abolished the monarchy in Sikkim, which ended the rule of Chogyal dynasty of Sikkim. What was the impact of this amendment? This amendment fully integrated Sikkim into India as its 22nd state. This amendment has also recognized the cultural uniqueness of the people of Sikkim by making special provisions in Article 371F. So what was the future course? Sikkim remains an integral part of India with its unique identity preserved under Article 371F. Now let's talk about the 38th Amendment Act of 1975. The historical context for this amendment was that this amendment was brought in during the period of emergency, which was declared by Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. And during emergency, all the powers were centralized in the executive branch and civil liberties were curtailed. And for all these activities, the judiciary was very critical of Indira Gandhi government. So she wanted to minimize judicial oversight and strengthen executive powers to manage opposition. So basically, the purpose of this amendment was to strengthen the executive's authority by limiting judicial review so that the executive can make swift decisions. So what were the key changes made through this amendment? So this amendment made emergency decisions unchallengeable in court. Now the President's proclamation of emergency cannot be declared unconstitutional because this power of President is beyond judicial review. This amendment has also protected ordinances issued by the President or governors because they cannot be questioned in courts. This amendment has also centralized power. Now the Cabinet's advisory role has been limited and the autonomy of the President and Prime Minister has been increased. What was the impact of this amendment? So this amendment consolidated executive's authority by reducing the judiciary's ability to act as a check on emergency decisions. And this amendment has also enabled swift governance, but this has weakened the balance of power among branches of government. What was the future course of this amendment? So this amendment was reversed by the 44th Amendment Act of 1978, which restored judicial review and checks on emergency powers to safeguard democratic principles. So let's summarize everything which we have discussed. So 35th Amendment Act laid the foundation or groundwork for Sikkim's integration by granting associate state status to Sikkim. But 36th Amendment Act completed the process by making Sikkim the 22nd state of India. 38th Amendment Act strengthened executive powers during emergency but faced severe criticism for undermining democracy. So this is it for today.